Come on, do something. Where's the fight? Gone? Look at him shake. He's scared. That's a good little doggy. The moment the man's heavy boot came down on the police dog's tail, the world didn't hesitate or soften, it fractured into something sharp and dangerous, because the sound that tore out of the German Shepherd's chest was not a warning bark or an act of aggression. It was a restrained cry of pain forced through years of discipline, the kind that only comes from an animal trained to endure suffering without reacting, trained to stay still even when every instinct demands violence. And the three young men standing behind the bench burst into louder laughter, convinced they were in control of a situation they didn't understand. Rex stayed seated on the weathered wooden bench, his powerful body wrapped in a black tactical vest marked clearly with the word police, the letters slightly worn from use, but the warning meant nothing to men who confused arrogance with strength, and one of them leaned forward again, pressing his foot harder this time, testing boundaries, provoking a response, treating a living, breathing protector like an object placed there for their amusement. Rex did not snap, did not growl, did not bare his teeth because his training had carved patience deep into his instincts, teaching him that reacting too soon could put others at risk, teaching him to assess before acting, to protect without hesitation only when the line was truly crossed. And right now the real danger was not to him but to the man who should have been sitting beside him, the man who had trusted Rex with his life in places where hesitation meant death. A large number of viewers enjoy our videos but aren't subscribed yet. If you like the content, please consider subscribing. It's a small step that greatly supports us. Feel free to share your suggestions in the comments. Your feedback helps us to improve. Back to the story. Their laughter carried across the park, bouncing between trees and benches, drawing uncomfortable glances from people who sensed something was wrong, but didn't know how to step in because cruelty wrapped in humor often paralyzes witnesses, and the men mistook that silence for approval, pointing at the faint scars along Rex's muzzle and neck, mocking them, unaware that those marks were earned in darkness under fire, during missions that never made headlines. What none of them noticed was the change in Rex's posture, the subtle tightening of muscle beneath his fur, the way his breathing slowed and his ears angled toward a sound only he recognized, boots moving across gravel, with a rhythm burned into his memory, a presence that sent a wave of calm certainty through his entire body. The men were still laughing when Rex slowly lifted his head, his eyes locking past them with quiet recognition, not anger, not fear, just absolute awareness. And, although they didn't feel it yet, the balance of power in the park had already shifted, because Rex was not just a police dog, and the man walking back toward the bench was not just an officer. He was the reason Rex was alive, and the reason what happened next would turn laughter into silence. The laughter didn't fade all at once. It cracked one voice at a time because the men finally noticed what Rex was staring at, and when they turned, confidence drained from their faces as if someone had pulled a plug, because the man walking toward the bench didn't rush, didn't shout, didn't look angry in the way weak people get angry. He moved with a calm that carried weight, the kind of calm that comes from knowing exactly how violence works and exactly when to use it. He stopped a few steps behind them, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed plain, enough to disappear in a crowd, but his eyes told a different story. Eyes that had watched chaos unfold without blinking. Eyes that had measured threats faster than words ever could. And when Rex finally exhaled, the sound was not relief. It was recognition, the silent confirmation that his handler had returned and the rules had changed. The man didn't raise his voice when he spoke because he didn't need to, and that alone should have been a warning, as he asked a single question, calm and controlled, about why 3 grown men thought it was acceptable to put their foot on a working police dog. And the answer he got was nervous laughter mixed with excuses, words tumbling over each other as confidence collapsed into embarrassment. One of them tried to joke his way out, tried to shrug it off as harmless fun, but the man's gaze never wavered, and Rex felt the subtle shift of permission, not a command to attack, but a signal to stand ready, because discipline does not disappear when anger arrives. It sharpens. The handler stepped closer, close enough that the men finally noticed the scars on his own hands, the way his posture never broke, the way he positioned himself instinctively between Rex and the threat. And when he spoke again, his voice carried something colder than anger. It carried history, as he explained exactly what Rex was trained to do where he had served and how much restraint it took for him to remain seated while someone tested his limits. Silence spread through the space like a held breath because the truth settled in, slowly, painfully, and one of the men took a step back, realizing too late that they hadn't been teasing a pet, they had been provoking a weapon bonded to a man who had spent his life mastering controlled force. The handler knelt beside Rex, then checking his tail with gentle hands, murmuring words meant only for him, and Rex leaned into that touch, not because he was weak but because trust had been earned over years of fire and loss. And when the handler stood again, the park felt smaller, tighter, as if it were holding everyone accountable. He didn't threaten them, didn't need to, because consequences don't always arrive with shouting or fists. Sometimes they arrive with clarity. And as he warned them about respect, about lines that should never be crossed, about how close they had come to something irreversible, the men nodded quickly, eager to escape the weight of their own stupidity. They left without another word, footsteps fast and uneven, laughter gone, replaced by the kind of silence that stays with you. And when they disappeared between the trees, the handler clipped Rex's leash back into place and rested his hand on the dog's head, grounding him, steadying both of them, because Rex wasn't just a police dog and the man wasn't just an officer. They were a team forged in